Thank you. You lost your gear? So this afternoon we met a guy inside the pharmacy with a shared, I guess you can say it's similar experience. We went in to get a new blood pressure machine because as you can tell he's starting to lose weight and he wants to make sure that the blood pressure cuff is accurate for his arm. Okay, he's like an in-betweener right now, in between the extra large and a large. So we have the large already, but he wants to try it with the extra large just to see whether or not he gets a different reading. Whatever. Birthday weekend, you get with whatever it is you want, baby, you get. So we were inside the pharmacy and he was telling the guy, that he wanted the new blood pressure cuff. And I said, you know what, we'll just get the whole new equipment, the cuff, the monitor, and everything. And of course, him still being a bit sentimental and emotional, which is expected after last year, it brought him to tears. And he explained to the guy that he had been in the hospital twice for pneumonia, non-COVID related, and he was in a medically induced coma. That's what it was. As much as, we play around with terms and things like that, they placed him in a medically induced coma as soon as they got him to the hospital in October. So he was in it for 4 weeks. And what's fascinating about that is that all of the doctors that we've spoken to at Cleveland Clinic are amazed that he did not have a tracheotomy placed inside of him and a stomach tube, because they all say that basically after 10 days they trach you. They don't even try to wean you off or anything like that. It's like almost like an instant kind of thing. So that's just one blessing, that I refuse to have him trach without them attempting to wean him off, which is protocol. They're supposed to attempt to wean you off instead of just going strictly to trach. So blessed that was a success. Well, this gentleman that worked in the pharmacy, he said that he had gone in for a prostatectomy because he had prostate cancer. And he was in the hospital for about 3 days, and he went home, and within 7 days he was back in the hospital with sepsis. They attempted to treat him for the sepsis and ended up putting him in a medically induced coma for 2 weeks. His body was shutting down and a whole range of things. And he described his experience, aside from him having no idea what occurred. He does not know how long, other than family pictures and things. He has no recollection of how long he was there, what occurred. He says the only thing he remembers is coming out of the medically induced coma. He said there was a door behind him and a door to the side of him, to the right side. The door behind him, he said it was as if he walked out of that door and immediately the door disappeared. There was light in front of him and a door to the right, and he walked towards the door. He opened the door, and as he entered, there was a stage. On the stage was his deceased mother, aunt, and grandmother. And he was asking them questions, and the only thing they did was point. And he said, okay, but where am I going? Where's the door? How do I get out of here? And they pointed to another part of this room. And as he put his hand on the door, he was saying, is this the door? Is this the door? Is this the door? And at that point, he was waking up and fighting with the nurses. One of the nurses told him it wasn't his time to go. That's how come he came back through the door and into the light. The doctors looked at him and said, we gave you a 30% chance of living. Now, this is with sepsis after a prostatectomy. This isn't COVID or pneumonia or any of those other things. Shared experience. While my husband was in the hospital, one of the things that they kept telling me was, They weren't sure what his status was. And basically, my being there ensured that he was going to get better because I did not trust them to do what I needed them to do. I did not trust that they had his best interest in heart. That's one thing, people. When you go to the hospital, you need to make sure that you are on top of these things. You need to make sure that you're there with your loved ones. Sending an elderly person into the hospital and not checking on them could be a death sentence. We play games like, oh, you're so busy, you got to work, you got to do this, you got to hell with all that. You have an elderly person in the hospital, make it your business and make time to go in and check on them. Let them know your face. Let them know you mean business, because if you don't, you're kissing your loved one goodbye for the last time, especially with this COVID thing. You're not going up in there, especially with the numbers rising in Florida. They're not letting you in, okay? Visitors are non-existent. So you need to do better. That's the only thing I can say is do better. Take care of them while they're home. And when they go in there, you need to make sure you have phone numbers of everybody, including management and things of that nature. So if something happens, you can get in touch with somebody, because they are not doing what they're supposed to do. And I mean, it's not all of the medical staff, but there are some that are just over this whole pandemic. They're over the pressure. They're over answering and working hard and working over and above for simple things that could be avoided, that at the end of the day, they're frustrated, they're stressed, they're tired. Imagine working 7 days straight, 12 hours at a clip, and not being able to see your family because you're taking care of somebody who is out partying all night or whatever the case may be. But we have seniors that are going into these facilities, into these hospitals, that are not walking out. You got doctors that are pronouncing them, with death sentences as soon as they get in there. How dare you determine that my loved one's life is not worth, your time, or you going to the extent of medicine, that you need be. Imagine that. Okay? So that's just one of a few people that we've met in the past week that have told us about being in a medically induced coma, the amount of medication that they're on, not remembering anything. Not remembering anything. My husband was in the hospital for almost 2 months. Okay, he was in there for over a month, of which he was intubated for 4 weeks, and he has no recollection other than the pictures. Think about that. Y'all just think about that. What are they giving these patients that they have no memory? What are they doing to them when we're not there? Y'all be safe. Stay healthy. One love.